Good morning, everyone. I am currently listening to the HD660S on the RME ADI2 DAC, and it sounds really nice, actually. So, this is not a review video, obviously. This is more of a request for some input. Again, here's the thing. Because I have so many digital audio players, the portable types, and we're kind of getting into a different type of territory, I thought that maybe it might be a good idea to get just one or two or three IEMs in your monitors to compare and contrast. Now, I've already ordered the FIO FH5, which is supposed to be excellent, and everybody who has reviewed it gives it high marks, so that's going to come in relatively soon. There's a pair of Shure IEMs that I've had for a very long time that I haven't been using because I haven't been an IEM type of person. But I figure if I'm going to compare, then I might as well bring in the Shures. I think they're the Shure 840s or the 800 series, something like that. I'll have to go back and check. I haven't used them in quite a while. And then the Campfire Audio, because they are a unique company. It's built out of Portland, Oregon, I think, hand-built most, if not all, of their IEMs. Now, Campfire Audio also made one headphone, and I do have that headphone. It's a very interesting headphone. So that's why I've previously known about Campfire Audio. The question is, which budget-ish IEM would you prefer to talk about it? I can only get one. And a lot of people want to talk about the Andromeda, which is supposed to be, it's not their flagship, it's not their top of the line. They have much more expensive IEMs than the Andromeda, but it gets high marks consistently. And that one I will very likely be able to get. But that's in the higher price range. What I want to do is be able to get something that is sub 500 on their website, which means I can find it for even less from my sources. The things that keep coming up are the IO, the red one here, which is one of their newest ones. It's about $300 MSRP, and it's got an interesting dynamic to it because people seem to have a very split opinion about this particular pair of IEMs. Either they like it or they hate it, and there's nobody who seems to say that this particular headphone, or excuse me, IEM, is something you should go out and buy. Zeos, for example, doesn't say that, and nobody else that has reviewed this pair of IEMs has emphatically endorsed it like people tend to endorse the Andromeda, for example, or the FH5 from FIO. So this is an interesting thing. If you know anything about this IEM, if you're interested in this IEM, tell me why, and why you like it or dislike it, or why you think it's worth consideration or not worth consideration, and then I'll make the ultimate decision. So this is the first option that we have. The next option we have is discontinued. But the one before that is the Lyra. The Lyra 2. This is the one that I would prefer to review. It's $599 MSRP, but I can find it for a little bit cheaper than that. And this one, I think, has a consistently good review from people. That it's fairly neutral, but it's considerably smooth. There's no treble peakiness. There's no overemphasis on the bass. So it's a type of IEM that seems to be designed for most listening types, and is not annoying or irritating. So this is option 2. Option 1 is the IO. Option 2, the Lyra 2, much more worthwhile, in my opinion. And then option 3, which clearly is not available on their website, is this one, the Nova. And the Nova was discontinued a little while ago. This is supposed to be particularly good with jazz and EDM, and frankly, it's supposed to have a more smooth tonality, not dramatically smooth, but certainly smoother. Now, this one I can find for considerably less than the MSRP, but it'll be hard for you to get it. And so this IEM roundup and review process and all this stuff is only helpful if you as well can find these particular products. So if I go out and I buy an IEM that is discontinued, but when you do find it, you can find it for a relatively decent price, it's not really a whole lot of much benefit, because then you're scrambling to try to find it, and it may not be worth all the effort and hassle. And frankly, if it's discontinued, then you may not get the warranty, and there might be things wrong with it, issues with the seller and the place you get. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets into it. If it was just for my own personal listening preference, then it doesn't matter, because I'm going to use it for myself. But if I'm going to review it and I'm going to say whether or not these things stack up to their claims, it's really for you, so that you can decide whether this should be part of your decision-making process. So even though the Nova is something that I am interested in personally, I don't think that it is necessarily something that it would be of any benefit to you as my subscribers and watchers. But I thought that because I found it, I should mention it. You tell me. Now, there's a few other Campfire audio earphones that you could theoretically say, hey, try this one, try the Solaris, try the Comet. Here's what I want to do. I want to stay away from the Comet and the lower end spectrum of Campfire audio, because I think the FIO FH5 really does cover that type of pricing bracket. So I want to stay away from the Comet. I also want to stay away from things like Atlas and Vega and Polaris because of the higher trebliness. And I'm not a treble person. I would prefer my treble to be rolled off sooner rather than later. I know there's a lot of detail in the treble presence, but I'm very sensitive to it. So those three IEMs that I just mentioned, the Polaris, Atlas, and Vega, tend to be, from what I can tell from reviews, more treble forward. The Solaris is $1,500. I'm not doing that. That's not going to happen. Same thing with the Equinox. I can't find it for anything less than $1,500. And frankly, if I go on eBay, I find people who are selling it for over the MSRP. That's not going to happen. The Andromeda, however, I can find for less than the MSRP. Io, I can find only for the MSRP. The Nova, I can find for less than the MSRP. Lyra, I can find for the MSRP. And so that's the spectrum that I'm looking at. My personal preference at this point is either the Lyra or Lyra, whatever. Either the Lyra or the Nova. But the Lyra is available, the Nova is not. So if you had to choose between the two, obviously, wouldn't you want something to have reviewed that you can also potentially buy if you wanted to buy it, if you liked it? The Nova is not so easily found, and it's used and all that stuff. So, maybe it's not really worth purchasing the Nova. Maybe it's the Lyra that should be of better, but that would be a better value. And then you have the Andromeda, which I think I am fairly set on trying to find. I think I've found it for about half, and let's see if I can haggle it down even lower. So there we are. Give me your input. Tell me what you think. And this is limited to Campfire audio. I'm not asking for recommendations from other companies. No, nothing else from Shure, nothing from Philips, nothing from Sony. No, thank you. I appreciate it, but I've already done my research on that. Campfire audio, that's the one that I want to concentrate on, because various reasons that we're going to go into much later when the review process actually starts. Tell me what you think about the ones that I've mentioned here. Finally, so here's the thing. I've said this a couple of times. Every once in a while, a subscriber of mine will say, make your videos shorter. And a subscriber of mine yesterday made a comment about that. I think it's a subscriber, I don't recall, but certainly somebody who watched my video said that make your video shorter, do more editing, and get rid of the dog, or do something about the dog. A couple of people said about that. I understand. I went back and listened to that video. It was the comparison between the two THXs. And Charlie was being very annoying. I agree. But when I had the headphones and I was listening, I couldn't hear it. So that's mea culpa. That's my fault. I should have been much more aware about that. So I apologize very much because I know that it was irritating because I listened to it afterward and I thought, gosh, that is pretty irritating. So my humblest apologies. Here on out, I'll be much more careful about Charlie and Shay intervening into the review process, and certainly they won't get bones while I'm doing it. The thing with Charlie is that he wants to sit right next to me and chomp away as if he's contributing mightily. He is contributing mightily. It's just not in the way that I would prefer, nor you probably. So I take that recommendation, that commentary, and I will do whatever I can reasonably to prevent that from happening in the future. But here's the thing. Here's the other input question for you. Do you really want me to shorten my videos? It would probably be helpful if I shorten my videos, I'm sure, to a degree. And that's cool. I can shorten my videos. But then how much shorter do you want them? There's no set limit on my videos typically. It's however much time it takes me to say what I need to say. I guess I could write things out and pre-plan and pre-shoot and get B-roll and all that, but then I'd be like almost every other reviewer on on YouTube, and I don't want to do that. I don't see the benefit of that. I personally don't see the benefit of it because those types of reviewers miss a considerable amount of information and detail in their review process. So what's the point? I understand that people want to watch shorter videos. I get it. And there are a lot of times where you don't know where is the critical part that I need to know as the viewer. I understand that, and so that's something I have to be more vigilant about. Is it, do I go back and put in timestamps? I can do that. It requires a lot more effort, but I can do that. Or the alternative, after I upload the actual, the full review. Let's say it's 50 minutes, the full review. And we're going through the review process, and let's say, I'll give you the 1770 for an example. We did 12, 13 videos on that, and then there was the conclusion that was almost an hour. Is it worth it to then do a summary after all of those videos and limit that summary to, say, 5 to 10 minutes, and then just give you the bullet points? Would that be of some benefit? I don't have any problem doing that. I think that, for me, that's a lot easier, because I already have all the thoughts in my head and I have all the videos for more detail uploaded, and you can look at it if you want. Or would you recommend that I cut out everything and then be much more scripted and much more strict about the timing? I'd like your input. Doesn't mean I'm going to go along with it, because I started this channel for a very particular reason, and I certainly don't feel compelled to go down the road from which I walked away, meaning I don't want to be like everybody else. But I do want to hear your opinions, and I do want to see if there are legitimate gripes, and the things that people have said so far, they're all legitimate. If there are other things that I need to pay attention to, other viewpoints that I need to consider, and then obviously improvements can be made. Improvements should be made and can be made and will be made. Just to the extent of what those improvements can be, what I'm willing to do based upon my own schedule, the fact that I have a full-time job, that I do this for a hobby, and how much effort I really feel is necessary to give to one aspect, and then have to negate something else, ignore some other aspect that I think might be equally important or more so. It's a whole balancing act, and so I'm going to have to consider that. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. It's Monday, and Monday's a hard day to get through, but you'll get through it, and then you'll be Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then finally it'll be Friday. Not fast enough for me, but we'll get there, and I hope to upload another video about the THX monoprice, monolith, AAA, dual DAC, dual amp, fantastic amplifier. That's basically what the title is, as I've said before. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you for your comments.